The bell over the door gave a tired jangle as he stepped in. Scuffed work boots, denim jacket that had forgotten its original color, a plain black cap tugged low. He moved with the easy quiet of someone who had learned long ago that being black in unfamiliar rooms meant entering softly and taking up little space. The Wednesday heat outside pressed on the glass. Inside, the AC struggled and the lunch crowd was thin, the kind of drift and hush where you can hear the soda fountain sigh. He asked for a booth by the window and got one without eye contact. The host barely looked up. "Table 9, he said, as if the number were a verdict. The man took his seat, opened the menu, and read like he had all the time in the world. He didn't. He had questions that didn't fit on laminated paper. His name was Malik Carter. On the surface, a quiet traveler, hungry for steak. In truth, founder of Carter Table, a Southern grill concept born in a one-room Tulsa kitchen and grown to 23 locations before he went semi-retired, a phrase people used when they wanted the old man out of the way while they tried new tricks. Malik had stepped back from the day-to-day to focus on expansion, training programs, and keeping the brand's soul intact. But lately, numbers at the Eastgate location, this one, didn't line up with anything except trouble. Vendor bills rose while inventory fell, guests complained about cold plates and cruel words, and the payroll log looked like someone had cut it with shears. Malik came alone, undercover, no handlers or heads up to corporate. He came because truth shows up raw when you show up plain. "Hi there. I'm Jenna. I'll be taking care of you," said a voice like a clean breath in a musty room. She was white, mid-20s, hair swept back with a pencil, hands nicked from bussing plates on busy nights. Her smile didn't flash, it steadied. Malik glanced up and met eyes that had seen too much for a Tuesday. "What's worth trusting on the menu?" he asked. "Ribeyes still ribeye," she said. "Mashed potatoes come out right if the line's not in a fight. Greens are good when Marcos makes them." She paused, as if calculating how honest she was allowed to be. "Medium rare?" "Medium rare," he said, closing the menu. "And coffee, if it doesn't taste like the broom closet." She grinned, small, like a reflex she hadn't lost yet. "I'll make a fresh pot." Malik watched the room without turning his head. Servers moved on eggshells. Conversations clipped themselves short. From the pass, a thick-set manager with a sunburned smirk tracked people instead of tickets. He wore authority like a cheap suit, tight in the wrong places. "Name tag, Rick." He leaned into a hostess's space and whispered something that made her neck stiffen. Malik filed it away. People didn't leave because of bad steak. People left because of fear. Jenna brought the coffee, set it down softly, and in the same motion tucked the check presenter beneath the mug. Too early for a bill. Too deliberate to be a mistake. She walked away like nothing had happened. Malik didn't move. He took a sip, let the bitterness bloom and break, then slid the leather open with 2 fingers. On the receipt line, in neat block letters, "If you're really who I think you are, don't leave. Please." His pulse didn't spike. His face didn't shift. Years teach you not to show what you're thinking. But a thrum moved through him anyway, something like relief and dread braided tight. Across the glass, he used the reflection to find her. Jenna was pouring a Coke for table 6, looking down, looking small, looking brave. He ate the steak, because you can learn a kitchen from a single plate, and paid in cash, thick with tip. When he rose, he didn't head for the door. He took the long route, past the bar where Rick stood with his arms crossed like a bouncer of bad news, past the restroom sign that pointed right, and turned left down the staff hallway, as if he'd forgotten how signs work. "Restrooms are that way," Rick called, voice syruping the threat. Malik turned and let a beat stretch. "I'm looking for the manager." "You found him," Rick said, stepping closer, chest first, like a man who'd never been taught softer ways. "We got a problem?" "Not yet," Malik replied. "I need a word with my server." "You got a complaint, you bring it to me. You don't pull staff off the floor," Rick said, smiling the way a dog shows teeth. Malik let the silence make their difference clear. "Then you'll want to hear it, too." A door creaked at the end of the hall. Jenna appeared with a tub of lemon wedges like a shield. "Storage closet's open," she said to no one, and kept walking. Malik slipped in behind her, as if he belonged to the shadows. The air smelled like bleach and fryer oil. The single bulb hummed. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she whispered. "I'm here," he said. "Now tell me what you were brave enough to write." She swallowed. "He clocks people out early and keeps them working. Tips go missing." Schedules get changed after they're posted. The old dishwasher got fired for asking for gloves. If anyone complains, hours disappear. And the inventory, vendors deliver full, we count short. I think he's selling cases off the back. Why tell me? Malik asked, not accusing, measuring. Because I think you're Malik Carter, she said quietly. You came to the Broken Arrow opening. I was a host, shaking, and you said, you did good, kid, like it was the highest title. I don't care about titles, sir. I care about safe. The bulb buzzed. Something in Malik's chest eased and tightened at the same time. You're sure? He asked. Sure enough to risk being off the schedule by Friday, she said. And she reached into her apron and placed a small key in his palm. Staff locker room. Top row, second from the left. He keeps a duffel and a second phone. Malik closed his fingers over the key. The metal felt heavier than it should. Can you hold one more shift? I can hold the whole house if I know someone's finally holding me, she said, a smile that wasn't a smile. Outside, Rick's laugh cracked the air like a pool cue on brittle chalk. Malik pocketed the key, set his jaw, and met Jenna's eyes. Then I'll be back tomorrow, he said. But not as a stranger. She nodded. Side door, after the lunch rush. The mop bucket sticks it open. He stepped out into the hallway like he'd only been looking for an extra napkin. On his way past the bar, Rick tried the same smile again. Malik let it slide off him like rain. He didn't walk out angry. He walked out ready. Some problems you fix with training. Rot, you cut out. The next noon, he arrived early and ordinary. The host said, anywhere. The way a person says, I don't get paid enough for this. Malik chose a corner booth where he could see the pass, the expo, the swinging doors where truth enters hot and leaves cold. He ordered the special to see whether anyone treated special like a promise or a punchline. The rhythm told a story the reports never did. Specials called late. Tickets parked too long. Eye rolls when certain tables asked for refills. Jenna darted between honey and heat. Kindness measured through how often she looked at people's shoes, the ones that hurt by the end of a shift. On his way to the bathroom, Malik ducked the line cook's curse and slipped into the locker room. The key found the lock with a trader's ease. The duffel unzipped to reveal a second phone. Cracked at the corner, no passcode, ugly with truth. Names saved as initials. GTRH. Wednesday, a thread with a contact named Market, full of bottle photos and numbers that didn't match invoices. Another thread with CH, the regional director, Carson Hale, using words like optics when he meant cover it. There was cash in the bag, tight rolls, small bills, the color of pulled teeth. Malik documented everything with the patience of a man who knows courtrooms don't care about feelings. He found a black notebook in the desk drawer, the lined book, where hours were shaved then rewritten in pencil. He lifted a page. The imprint on the next sheet told on the last. His stomach sank and his spine straightened. When you've been dismissed for years, you learn the language of proof. The office door clicked. Rick's bulk blocked the light. Lose something? He asked, soft the way a snake's tongue is soft. Malik closed the book, kept his voice level. Found too much. You don't belong back here, Rick said, stepping inside and nudging the door shut with his heel. I do today, Malik answered, and for the first time let his eyes show the iron behind the denim. I'm the founder, and I've been letting people pretend my name is wallpaper. Rick blinked, then laughed, then let the laugh die when it didn't scare anything in the room. You got no idea how things actually run, he sneered. Labor's up. Guests tip less. You either get creative or you drown. Creative doesn't mean criminal, Malik said. It doesn't mean clocking out a single mom and calling it lean. It doesn't mean selling cases out the back and calling it shrink. It doesn't mean putting fear on the line and calling it culture. Rick's shoulders rolled. You can't prove a vibe. Malik held up the notebook and the burner phone. I don't have to prove a vibe. They stared each other into the narrowness between wrong and consequence. Then Rick did what men like him do when the mask melts. He tried to scare the room into smaller space. You walk out with that, I call the cops. You do that, Malik said evenly. And I'll have them bring gloves so they can handle the ledger without smudging your prints. Rick's jaw hardened. His eyes flickered to the camera dome in the corner, and Malik followed his gaze. Does that work? Malik asked. Rick swallowed. It works enough. Not today, Malik said, tucking the phone and photos into his jacket. And not tomorrow. He left the office and the door stayed open, like a mouth that had forgotten how to close. Jenna caught his eye and didn't ask questions. They didn't talk in the hallway. They didn't need to. He tapped the pocket where the phone sat like a heartbeat, and she nodded once. Good. The mop bucket held the side door, just as promised, and he stepped into the light as if nothing heavy sat in his chest. At the motel, Malik spread the evidence across the bedspread, ugly against the floral pattern. He called 3 people: his attorney, a friend in HR who owed him truths, and his conscience, which had been speaking up all along. By nightfall, the map of rot showed routes to places he hadn't wanted to admit. Vendor reps who liked cash, a regional director who liked silence, a system that had let good enough for a quarter trump right enough for a lifetime. His phone buzzed with an unknown number. He answered to a voice he recognized and wished he didn't have to. Malik, it's Carson. I hear you're visiting Eastgate. Exciting, Carson said, as if small talk could cushion a fall. I'm counting, Malik replied. Counting what? Which of my values got pawned while I was out building new ones? A small laugh on the other end. Let's not make this personal. It's only personal to every person who's been told they're lucky to be here while you skim their luck. Carson exhaled into the receiver. Be reasonable. We'll handle it internally. The way you handled Broken Arrow? The way you handled Benton Pike? Malik asked. Silence. I'm done with quiet fixes that fix nothing. We could lose the brand over optics, Carson warned. We already lose people over ethics, Malik said, and hung up. He didn't sleep so much as hold still while the night moved past. In the morning, he put on the same boots, the same jacket, and walked back into the place he built from gumption and a cast-iron skillet. He didn't bring the ledger. He brought a promise. At pre-shift, Malik stepped where managers usually stood. No clipboard. No threat. Just a man with a name and a memory of what the name was supposed to mean. My name is Malik Carter, he said to the circle of weary eyes. I am not here to scare you. I am here to stop what's been scaring you. Someone gasped. Someone whispered, I knew it. Jenna wiped her hands on her apron the way a person does when disappearing isn't an option. We have work to do, Malik continued. And it starts with truth. If you have been shorted, speak to HR. If you have receipts, bring them. If you are afraid, I don't blame you. I've spent a lifetime being told to take up less space. Not here. Not today. Rick arrived late and loud, tried to bulldoze the room with policy. Malik held up a hand, and the room held its breath. You're on administrative leave, effective immediately, he said, handing over a letter drafted an hour earlier by the lawyer who had known him since he was making catfish plates on a folding table. Security will escort you as a courtesy. Rick laughed until the laugh found no echo. You don't have security, he said. Malik nodded toward the door. 2 off-duty officers Jenna had called with her own quiet string stood waiting in plain clothes. We do today, Malik said. The staff didn't cheer. They exhaled. Sometimes justice sounds like air getting back into lungs. 2 days later, a courier dropped a manila envelope at the restaurant with the solemnity of a bad hymn. Inside, a cease and desist, threats typed in legalese that tried to turn courage into defamation and evidence into unauthorized access. The letterhead bore the corporate logo and, beneath it, Carson's name. Malik read it at table 8 where the sunlight hit most honest. He said nothing. He walked the envelope back to the office and set it atop the notebook like a nest of snakes. We're still good, Jenna asked, standing in the doorway with a towel over her shoulder. Her eyes were brave. Her hands betrayed the tremble. We were good before the letter, Malik said. Now we're loud. Loud how, she asked. Truth loud, he said. The kind where we stop whispering and start documenting with microphones. They met a local reporter at a diner across town, the kind of place where coffee comes in mugs that know bruises. Ken had laugh lines carved by disbelief and the stubborn habit of writing down what power tried to keep off the page. Jenna told him about the hours that vanished from screens. Malik told him about the notebook that didn't vanish at all. Ken asked for proof. Malik slid photos across the laminate like cards turned face up. No flourish. No flourish needed. Ken asked one last question, gentle as a confession. Why here, Mr. Carter? You have 20-plus stores. Why stand your ground in this one? Malik glanced at Jenna, then back at the steam rising off black coffee. Because a good thing rots from the core out, not the branches in. And because she handed me a note asking me not to leave like every other person with a title has. Titles don't protect people. People do. I forgot that when I stepped back. This is me stepping back in. The story ran Saturday morning. By lunch, Malik's inbox had become a ledger of other people's pain, servers from other cities, line cooks who'd been adjusted into poverty, hosts who learned to cry in walk-ins. Some notes were angry, most were tired. Malik answered anyway. He promised two things. He was listening, and he wasn't going to let their words dissolve into apologies and policy memos that mean nothing. Corporate called again, this time not through Carson, but from the CEO's office. The assistant's voice tried to be firm and cordial at once. They want a meeting, she said. In Tulsa. Monday. Tell them I'll be at Eastgate, Malik replied. If they want to see the mess, they can come to the kitchen. That night, with the dining room's lights turned low and the dish machine finally quiet, Malik sat at table 4 with Jenna and the core crew. Marcos from the line, April from hosts, Theo from the dish pit. They mapped what broken looked like and what better could be. No speeches. Real talk. April said she wasn't sure she'd ever been asked what she needed. What do you need? Malik asked. To be treated like a person, she said. And a broom that isn't older than me. They wrote both on the board. Start with brooms. End with dignity. Same list. The door swung open, and Rick strode in with a cop who looked like he'd been handed someone else's errand. That man stole company property, Rick barked, pointing at Malik's chest. He took a phone and a ledger. Do you have proof of ownership? The officer asked, bored with bluster. Rick thrust out his chin. I'm the manager. Malik corrected. He stood, calm. Officer, I'm the founder and legal owner. The items I removed were from a locker used for theft and intimidation. I have counsel on speed dial if you'd like to verify. You're welcome to watch us dial. Jenna stepped forward before anyone could take the moment away. Sir, he's telling the truth, she said to the officer. He's the reason we're still here. Ma'am, we're not here to arbitrate workplace drama, the officer said, but his tone softened when he looked at the huddle of tired faces behind her. Malik dialed on speaker. His attorney answered with the iron of statute and the patience of friendship. In 3 minutes, the officer knew more about liability than he wanted to as a favor to anyone. He looked at Rick, then at Malik, then at the door. This is civil, he said, the relief audible. Take it to court. Rick sputtered, turned on Jenna. You think you're safe because you flirt with customers and cry on cue? The room went ice still, the kind of still that knows which sentences turn into storms. Malik's voice was low, not because he was afraid, but because he knew exactly where anger belongs. We don't insult women here, he said. We don't insult anyone here. We serve, and we respect. Respect. Rick scoffed. Respect is for people who earn it. Everyone comes in with a full measure, Malik said. What they do with it is on them. The officer put a hand on Rick's elbow. Sir, it's time to go. Rick yanked his arm back and stomped out into a night that had stopped being his. The door closed. The room exhaled again. Malik turned to his people. We can't choose how they behave, he said. We can choose how we do. He offered Jenna 2 things the next morning, a manager's chair and the time to decide. She stared at the offer letter like it might be a trick. I don't know if I'm ready, she said. You've been doing the job without the title, he replied. This just makes the truth official. She laughed, short and stunned. I was supposed to be a social worker, she said, eyes going far for a second. Then my life got life. You've been doing social work with a coffee pot and a ticket book, Malik said. Now you'll have a budget. She nodded, slow then sure. Okay, she said. But I want a hotline for the staff. Anonymous. And a posted policy that says clocking someone out while they're on the floor is theft. Done, he said, and meant it. The pushback wasn't over. But now there was a center that didn't move when someone else shouted. The CEO came on a Sunday, as Malik had asked. No tie, no entourage, just a man who looked like sleep had been rationed. He walked through the kitchen first on purpose. Malik watched the moment humility landed. Smoke and sizzle, and the sticky floor you only know if you've stood on one for 12 hours. He stuck out a hand to Marcos and to Theo. He asked what the Friday rush sounded like. He learned that truth isn't loud, it's steady. They sat in booth 7 in the afternoon lull. We're rewriting policy, the CEO said, voice soft enough to carry. We terminated Carson. We're auditing vendors. We're offering back pay for verifiable clock-out violations. Malik nodded. Good. And we also need day 1 training that says this. Treat every person like they're carrying an invisible load you can't see. Because they are. Start there, and the rest of the manual makes sense. The CEO listened, truly listened, the rarest executive skill. Malik asked for anonymous reporting lines staffed by humans, not bots. He asked for benefits for hourly workers starting here, then rolling out. He asked for a posted pledge in every break room, signed by leadership, that dignity was not an extra you earned. The CEO didn't counter. He asked how fast. As fast as we'd move if we were bleeding money, Malik said. Because we are. We're just measuring the wrong leak. They shook on it. Handshakes aren't contracts, but sometimes they are beginnings that hold. Jenna watched from the service station, heart drumming hope and caution in alternating rhythms. The look Malik gave her across the room said, I meant what I said. She felt the old ache uncoil, survival posture, slowly standing up straight. That week, corporate PR tried to spin the story into a learning moment. Ken wrote a follow-up anyway, quoting the policies about to change and the people whose lives those policies would touch. It wasn't a takedown. It was a lift-up titled, When a Founder Comes Back to the Line. People shared it because it didn't make heroes out of myths. It made heroes out of the ones who washed the pans. Not everyone cheered. An investor sent a sterile email hinting that all this noise could hurt the brand. Malik replied with a list of names and dollar amounts. Checks cut for back pay when you count the minutes taken from poor people. Look at the yield on justice, he wrote. It compounds. In the middle of the crossfire, Jenna's life kept life ing. Her mom's arthritis flared. The rent went up. Her old car started mimicking death on cold mornings. She came in anyway, hair tied back, notebook ready, voice steady even when it shook. Malik noticed. He didn't say so in public, he paced his praise. At week's end he handed her an envelope with a bonus and a note. For the day you told the truth. She looked up with eyes that said, finally, someone sees that telling the truth costs the teller. Rick tried one more play. He texted two-line Cook's ugly rumors about Malik, complete with a photoshopped spreadsheet showing money missing from a charity night Malik had run a decade ago. The Cooks brought the texts to Jenna, who brought them to Malik. 2 calls later, Rick's number was tied to the burner still in evidence. The rumor died in the cradle, the way lies do when people share receipts instead of whispers. Law enforcement came not because Malik demanded it, but because a vendor did. The rep had seen cases walk off trucks at 3 different locations and, emboldened by the coverage, decided to talk. The DA asked for paperwork and got more than he'd expected. Rick wasn't arrested in the dining room. Justice doesn't need a spectacle to be real. He was indicted quietly, the way a weight gets removed from a bridge at night, so commuters feel safer the next morning without knowing exactly why. Malik held a staff meeting with chairs instead of standing in a circle. People sat like they hadn't sat forward in months. He pulled out a flip chart because sometimes paper beats slides. Every decision we make is going to answer one question, he said. Does this make it easier for a good person to do good work? He listed tangible things. Brooms that don't shed straw, latex gloves in all sizes, a second expo during Friday rush, a firm rule that no one eats last because they're lowest on the totem pole. He listed intangible things. Eye contact, names said correctly, grace for people having a human day. He wrote, grace, big enough to see from the dish pit. Jenna added 2 policies. Every person can call a pause, she said. If service is spiraling, anyone can say reset and get 30 seconds of breathing room. And no sarcasm to guests or each other. Heads nodded. Sometimes the holiest thing in a restaurant is a rule that says, kindness counts as skill. The CEO returned with a printed letter he asked to post in the break room across the company. An apology for where they'd failed, a pledge for what would change, a non-retaliation promise with a hotline number in bold. It was translated into Spanish and Vietnamese and Marshallese because kitchens are multilingual and dignity should be too. Malik watched staff read the lines and then read them again like they were testing for magic. No magic, just a map. Grand reopenings make for great photos and cheap confetti, but Malik wanted no fireworks. Just a Friday night where the dining room hummed in that soft, urgent way great service hums. He stood in the back where he could see everything and no one had to see him. Jenna ran the floor with a coach's calm, redirecting with open hands instead of pointing fingers. April at the host stand greeted a family by name because she bothered to learn it. Marcos plated with an eye like a painter's, wiping edges not because he feared a yell, but because clean plates taste better. An older couple came in, the kind who order half the menu then tip, like regret. They were on their best behavior tonight, softened by the new cadence. "You folks changed something," the man said to Jenna. "Feels better." "We went back to the beginning," she replied, surprised by the truth in her mouth. "We remembered why we feed people." Near closing, Malik called for a quick huddle. No big speech. He'd learned the power of small ones. "Some of you read that story online," he said. "It made me look like a hero. I'm not. Heroes are the ones who keep showing up when it's hard. That's you. I just showed up late, and I'm sorry for that." A few people laughed through their noses, the laugh people make when grief bumps into grace. "We'll keep fixing," he said, "and we'll keep forgiving each other's human moments. But we won't forgive theft of anyone's hours, dignity, or hope. Those are sacred here." He handed Jenna a simple, solid plaque for the wall by the kitchen door. It read, "You belong here." It wasn't fancy. It was true. 2 weeks later, corporate rolled the new policies to every store. Anonymous hotline staffed by people who could say, "I'm sorry," like they meant it. Back pay checks sent without making people beg twice. A training video where Malik didn't narrate like a CEO. He spoke like a man who had scrubbed pans and wanted to keep other people from being scrubbed raw. The comments weren't glowing. They were grateful. That's rarer. An investor who'd sent the noise email requested a call. Malik took it while walking the length of the dining room because movement kept him from saying something too sharp. "I misjudged," the investor said. "The brand equity is up. The staff engagement scores." Malik cut in gently. "We've got people sleeping easier. That's the score I care about first." He hung up and found Theo in the dish area folding aprons like origami. "Got your schedule," Malik said. "You asked for mornings to help your mom. You got them." Theo's smile was everything a Friday night could ask for. "She says thanks," he said. "She remembers you sent a casserole when my brother was sick, with your own recipe and a note that said, 'We carry each other.' She keeps the note on the fridge." Malik felt the old ache in his chest again. The ache that comes when you realize the work is bigger than steak and checks. "That note was for me too," he said. "The rebuild didn't make the place perfect. Nothing does. A server still no-showed on a Saturday. A guest still wrote a Yelp review that had more sting than sense. But the foundation changed. People looked each other in the eyes more. Laughter came back to the prep line. Someone brought in a speaker and put on old-school soul while they rolled silverware. No one told them to turn it off. The room learned to hold mistakes without hurling them. At a quiet table during a late lull, Jenna admitted something to Malik she hadn't said out loud. "I slipped you that note because I thought you'd leave like everyone else did," she said. "But a part of me hoped someone would choose you," he finished. She nodded, surprised he understood that shape of hope. "I didn't," he said. "I chose us." Months later, Eastgate felt like a different building wearing the same bones. The sign out front still flickered on humid nights, but inside there was a steadiness that survived rushes and rush jobs. A regional manager, new, chosen for empathy as much as Excel, stopped by on Tuesdays to ask questions that didn't feel like traps. The CEO visited again and didn't bring a photographer. He sat at table 9 and watched how people treated each other when no one was supposed to be watching. His eyes got shiny in a way executives don't always allow. The legal case against Rick and 2 vendor reps took its slow course. Malik didn't gloat when an indictment became headlines. He didn't post about it. Ken did, and even then, the piece centered the staff who had endured and the policies that had shifted because they refused to shrink. "Justice is not the same as revenge," Malik told anyone who asked. "Justice is a door staying open and a paycheck coming out right." He held one more all-staff meeting in the late afternoon to set one more stone in place. He walked in with an empty clipboard. "I want a list," he said, "of all the ways a person feels respected here, small things and big. We'll put them on the wall and check ourselves by them." They called out items like prayer beads. "Say my name right. Don't call me sweetheart unless you're my grandma. If you fix my mistake, teach me to." Malik wrote every answer on a sheet the size of a small sail. When they were done, he taped it to the wall. It rippled in the AC like a promise. Toward the end of the night, a young couple came in, teenage parents, baby on a hip, stress on their shoulders, hope in their eyes anyway. They were seated by the window where Malik once pretended to study the menu. The baby wailed. The parents apologized. Jenna stepped in, knee to eye level with the little one. and told a joke that wasn't very good but was perfectly kind. She brought out a small bowl of mashed potatoes on the house and 2 cups of water, because sometimes water is the miracle. The baby calmed. The mother's jaw unclenched. Malik watched the entire world change by a degree you could feel. When the couple left, the father pressed a few crumpled dollars into Jinnah's hand. She tried to give them back. He shook his head. "Keep it," he said. "For the day you chose us." He didn't know he was quoting Malik. Maybe the truth repeats itself on purpose. Closing time came with its soft rituals. Chairs went up. The dish pit sang its last rinse. The grill cooled like a tamed star. Malik wiped the table because old habits are faithful. He stood in the threshold between dining room and kitchen and let the room wash over him. He heard what had been missing months ago: unforced laughter, quick thank yous, a broom that didn't fight back. He looked at Jinnah, who was counting drawers with the ease of someone who had nothing to hide and everything to steward. She felt his gaze and raised her eyebrows in a question. "We did all right," he said. "We did more than all right," she replied. "We changed the ending." He nodded. "We changed the beginning." On his way out, he passed the plaque by the kitchen door, "You belong here," and touched it the way a person touches a mezuzah or a memory. The night air met him warm and forgiving. He thought of the note Jinnah had slipped under the coffee that first day, the 6 words that stopped him cold and started the fire that burned the rot out. "If you're really who I think you are, don't leave." He hadn't. And because he stayed, others did too. The moral didn't need a sermon. It lived in every shift where no one was afraid to ask for help, in every paycheck that matched the hours worked, in every time someone new walked in and was treated like they were carrying an invisible load, because they were. Respect isn't a bonus. It's the baseline. Power isn't a crown. It's a tool. And justice isn't a twist at the end. It's a way of running the kitchen from the first ticket to the last. If you've been underestimated, humiliated, or told to be realistic, let this be your proof that realism can include kindness and consequence in the same breath. If you've been the person who had a title and forgot what it was for, open your eyes in your office door and walk to the line. If you've ever thought a quiet note might not matter, write it anyway. Sometimes courage is 6 words long. Malik locked the door behind him and slid the key into his pocket next to another key, small, silver, the one that once opened a locker full of lies. He kept it to remember that a door can lead to rot or to repair, and it's on us to choose which. He looked up at the sign, flickering as always, stubborn as hope. The night held steady. Tomorrow they'd do it again, not because a camera was watching, but because people were.